welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Injection. For those of you who are attending for the first time, you are most welcome to our platform. We are a very unique educational platform with a broad, varied, and very targeted approach to education. We pride ourselves on bringing you the best that our community has to offer. We have been known even at times to go outside of our community just to make sure we bring you the level of expertise that is required for whatever subject we are covering at that time. We are proud and really enthusiastic coming out of our last weekend where we had our first live in-person, first in-person program of the Spiritual Injection at the NEC, National Exhibition Centre. For those of you who traveled down to support or traveled down just to meet the team and our host for the first time in person, I'm sure you'd agree we had an excellent time being part and sharing the evening with the Black History Books Expo. So on the following day, Sunday, we had our second annual Repatriation Club conference. And following on from last year, it was very evident the great strides and progress that we had made. This year, we had David Commission returning for the second year to update us now that Barbados has acquired its independence. So really updated us with where Barbados sits in terms of the projected progress of the country, and also updated us on some major protocols which are in the pipeline with regards to CARICOM itself, which affects the whole of the Caribbean. So it was definitely a worthwhile exercise, listening to him and really unpacking. When he unpacked the protocols, when he unpacked the direction that CARICOM is moving, it really helped me personally to find my place and to really see what opportunities that may or may not provide me with, and also to really measure my own movements to see whether I'm in step to really benefit from those great things which are on the horizon. Another guest we had is David Mohammed, the Eastern Caribbean representative of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He again has a very diverse area of work in that he has lots of links and communication with people, not only within his fold, but people in commerce, in business and trade, startup groups across the Caribbean. So again, his contribution to the conference was well beneficial, and really, if you didn't get a chance to attend, please ensure that you diarize this. This will be every October. We'll be having our annual conference. Many of our members came, many people became new members, but whether you're a member or not, the level of information, the level of insight that we bring at these conferences is really not to be missed. And our third special guest was Muta Baruka. For those of you, in fact, he's an international poet. He's an international humanitarian who has invested decades into promoting and raising the profile of the vision and the mission that he has for Black people in the diaspora, and the connection that he sees that we have with raising the African continent. So his contribution again was insightful, and actually even our host commented on how in line and in tune it was with the mission and the vision of the Repatriation Club itself, and the guidance that our host Abdul Hakim had received from the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The event again did relaunch the second annual cycle of the membership. So if you'd like to know more information, the information will be posted in the chat. but you're also free to contact the contact details for the spiritual injection, or we can answer any queries and let you know how to become a member of the Repatriation Club. What are the benefits? The benefits are, of course, having regular meetings in which you can have direct updates from Abdul Hakim over the last 12 months. The themes, many of the themes and the topics that you've seen brought through the spiritual injection have been largely invested in and researched, and it's included a lot of travel, a lot of international travel by the spiritual injection team, and all of this is fed back to the Repatriation Club members in our private members meetings. So it's beneficial on that front. What else? Opportunities that we are able to source as a result of the connections that we already had, but the connections that we are amassing as we plow through and as we build our platform, the Spiritual Injection. You will be able to be really the first to have an update with regards to the prospective opportunities that our connections are bringing us to. And thirdly, and it's really important, this one here, the fact that you are part of a collective who have a shared mission, a shared vision. It may manifest itself differently. We are individuals, but collectively, especially financially, we have much more weight and much more scope to do greater things in a shorter amount of time. And that really is one of the major benefits that I really hope you can grasp, your mind can grasp, that collectively pooling our financial resources, our individual skills that we bring to the table, will enable us to propel any individual vision that we have for ourselves. We can propel that and multiply that and 10x that, to use crypto speak, 10x that just by being in a pool of like-minded people with, of course, a well-connected CEO such as Abdul Hakim. So moving on, without any further delay, I'm going to bring on to you our host. It is important that we resume our Zoom etiquette, but I would like you to unmute yourself in this immediacy, just to welcome our host. Let's get the energy right. If there's anyone who you think should be on this line, who would benefit from this conversation with regards to investments, worthy investments in 2022, it's not too late for you to register, send them a link and get them on the line. We don't send out recordings, although we do have our app, so make sure they're here. And also you're securing yourself a circle of working party that you can then come off this line and collaborate with and make your plan. So unmute yourselves and welcome our host, Abdul Hakim. Welcome, brother.
Warm welcome to you also, and warm welcome to everybody on the line. Thank you, Sister Sylvina, and thank you to all of you who have joined us this fantastic Thursday. How is everybody feeling today?
Very
marvelous.
Very
well, very well.
Greetings to all on the line.
Intensive.
I know you're all happy that we're coming to the close of the week, right?
Definitely.
So we were blessed without much furthering, because time is always the enemy on a Thursday. So we want to give our special guest today as much time as we can afford. Now, today, or on Monday, I was invited by our special guest, Brother 19 Keys, to attend a very special event that he and his partners were putting on at the Royal Albert Hall. And it was so gratifying and so refreshing to see approximately 4,000 of our people gathered together in one of the most prestigious venues there are in the United Kingdom to hear messages of Black empowerment and to hear guidance of how they can, or how we can, maximize our business interests. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And our brother 19 Keys, you know, as always, did a great job inspiring all of those who were in attendance. Now, our brother is one of the leading, not just young people, who is a great inspirer and motivator, and also a great actualizer of what he says and what he inspires and what he teaches. And this is the most important aspect of being an entrepreneur, of being a spiritual teacher, is the ability to actualize what you've actually advised. So brother has been on a whirlwind trip of Europe. He was in London, went over to Paris, and now he's back in sunny California in Los Angeles. So without much further, and if you're on the line, brother 19 Keys, we would like to receive you now. So Spiritual Injection, please take your devices off of mute and receive our special guest, brother 19 Keys. Warm welcome to Spiritual Injection once again, my brother.
Assalamu alaikum to all the beautiful people and peace.
Salam, sir.
Guys, everybody from across the world. I'm glad you all could be here during your day. I look forward. I love this platform, and I love speaking to our dear brother Abdul Hakim, a very progressive, enlightening brother, and you know, you have an extremely important job, you know, over there in Europe, you know, and being able to bridge the gaps and being able to create that connection, I think is vital and very important. You understand me? And I believe that we can together, of course, we can create something monumental. You know, by ourselves, we can do something okay. It look good. I don't think it's going to impress God. You understand me? But I think together we can impress God. You know, by ourselves, we can impress the people. You understand me? So I'm trying to impress God by working together with as many of my brothers and sisters across the planet Earth as possible.
Fantastic. So talk to us, 19 Keys, about your recent trip to the UK, a phenomenal success of you and your partners. I was so impressed with the turnout on Monday and the reception of our brothers and sisters. It's as if they knew you all your life.
Yes.
And, you know, it was such great synergy. So walk us back and walk us through, you know, the building of a relationship with people in the UK and throughout Europe.
Yeah. It really goes back to, I believe that was 2019, my first time going out to the UK. During that time, I was doing my Four Corner tour, right, where Black people were spread out through from Africa, right, and they were sent into forced labor, right? So we went to the Caribbeans. I went to Jamaica, right? I spent about a month out there, right? And I was doing what you call participant observation. So it's one thing to go to a place and you visit, you take a vacation, right? That's what it's like to be a tourist, to just look. The participant observation is you participate in the culture, right, and you observe. And I went to the Caribbean, I went to South Africa, right? I had just finished my tour all throughout North America, and we went to London. Now, on each one of these tours, we went to different places, right? So in London, I had the great ability to go to Parliament, right, and speak there with Queen Diambia, right? She inherited her title from her father, who was the king, who left his to come to America. But she picked it back up after studying America and going back and said, no, you know, I want to represent my people. And she invited us to come there, me and my brothers, Red Pill and Blue Pill. And she essentially said she was on a peace mission, but we was the big stick. You understand me? So we let her speak peaceably, and we spoke upon the future and what we need to do to uplift this curse that was on us. And I fell in love with the United Kingdom, specifically our people in London, because the mobilization was so fast, right? I had the opportunity to listen, right? And I talked to you earlier about this. We put out a call, and within an hour, it was sold out. We said, listen, we're going to be here at Vantra speaking. Them tickets went fast. And I said, okay, something different is happening here, right? So when we showed up and I'm speaking to the people upon the things that I believe are universal, which are concepts of business and masculinity and femininity, there was no pushback. There was only acceptance. There was only, I'm listening to hear. And as I'm walking through the streets of London, this was 3 years ago. This is before I have hundreds of thousands of followers and Breakfast Club interviews and all of this. This is just pure on the ground roots of them seeing the information. And I'm walking through the streets the same way I'm known in Los Angeles, where I live. I'm being known out in London with brothers. Hey, brother, how you doing, man? I love you. What are you doing here? And I'm like, wow, this energy is different. And one brother exclaimed to me, he said, well, you know, we don't have that many saviors like y'all got in America, right? Like in America, every single decade in America, we got another savior. We have a Marcus Garvey, we got a Noble Drew Ali, we got a Thurgood Marshall, right? We have a Frederick Douglass. We have a Huey P. Newton. We have an Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have a Martin Luther King. We have a Malcolm X. Right? We have a plethora of different leaders and teachers and guides that actually have large platforms.
Right.
So he was explaining, he said, brother, we don't have none, not like that. So, and I'm sure that there are many brothers out in the UK, but what we understand out here is that our freedom of speech is different, right? So we speak boldly and radically and directly to, you know, the power structure in a way where that is not being sensationalized, right, out in Europe. So I started to understand that, and I started to say, okay, this is why, right, the presence seems so special, because, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was blocked from coming over there, right? Mm-hmm. They understood that, and I just got done talking to Tariq Nasheed, and he was blocked from coming to the UK, right? Because they understand that they don't want nobody coming over there mobilizing that 1.9 million Black people, because is that will get everybody on one accord. And there's nothing more dangerous than our people on one accord. Right. So, you know, my goal is not to get banned, of course. I want to be over there and greet you and speak to you and meet you. So we learn how to move strategic. My goal is to not try to replace any leader, teacher, revolutionary that has been before. It's to be myself and learn from the example that was set before me and say, okay, now that I have the blueprint, now I know the strategies that they utilize, the things that were utilized against them, the mistakes that were made, the things that were done right. I get to use that as a masterclass as how now to go and reach my people, right? And so, you know, we decided to, you know, now go on this journey of connecting with brothers, you know, and my brother Rashad corrected me today. He said, brother, you told the brother, I introduced you to my brother Rashad and Troy of Earn Your Leisure. He said, you told the brother I was an honorary Muslim. He said, brother, I was born a Muslim. I said, oh, excuse me, brother. My bad. That's why I want to make that correction here today. He said, brother, I was born Muslim. My father's a Muslim. I said, okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. But those are my brothers from New York, and I met them through another brother, Wall Street Trapper, who I introduced you to. And these brothers are at the forefront of, you know, an economic revolution. You know, I told the brother, I said, education is the highest level of activism in the world, because it's bringing awareness to how you carry the problems, not just the problem itself, right? And so we learned to come together under the banner of educating, and each one of us have a different skill set. And we've decided, of course, that stronger together, we are better. You understand me? And now we have the ability to pack halls and concerts, right? They're doing Madison Square Garden, and we just got off the phone talking about doing these dissertations and doing these lectures and in these historic places and creating a new narrative to be recognized for our era. So coming to Royal Albert Hall, I did some research and seeing that, you know, Einstein, right? Who maybe not be as smart as I am, but he was there before. Now I'm just Einstein was there. I said the Muhammad Ali did an exhibition there. And my brother, before I got on stage, Brother Minister Abdul Hakim gave me a gift. He said, brother, don't you know that before the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was banned from the UK, this is the venue that he had booked. Man, it filled me with so much joy and so much spirit. I went on there with that and I walked out on stage to a crowd of 3,000 plus people with their cell phones out. You understand me? Like it was a concert. And we're about to talk business and education and right and how to materialize and spiritualize. And the FOI come out walking with me. And Minister Farrakhan is playing with the J Electronica song. You understand me? And the energy in the room just felt so electrifying. And all I could do was put my hands up. The people they cheered, and then I turned that into a fist. So it wasn't about me. I turned it into the people. And from there on, man, we started to enact and create history. And I was talking to my brother earlier that we would not allow them to act like this is normal.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is not normal. This is the exception. This is what we want to make normal.
Right. So tell us about high level conversation and what's the overall global objective of high level conversation?
That's a great question. You know, we talk about there once being libraries of Timbuktu, right? And libraries of Alexander.
Yeah.
And us not having access, right, to that information. And we say, well, they destroyed it after they stole the knowledge, right? And then, you know, they took credit for it. And there's a lot of, you know, when I look at the conscious community, I always looked at it and said that the knowledge is high level, but the production was never high level. Right. The aesthetic was never high level. Right. And I always thought that we did ourselves a disservice because I feel like the devil puts way more quality into ignorance than we do into enlightenment. Right. And I said, how can you compete with somebody who puts a higher budget into getting our people over to the wrong side, but you won't put the same level of investment and aesthetic and quality and study into bringing us over into something that's good. So that's always been my aesthetic as a teacher, right? It's not just what you say, right? It's how people are able to observe it and perceive it, right? Because now they put it in a luxury. I said, our people always held consciousness as luxury. So why not design it as a luxury then? So now it's aspirational. So with high level conversations, you know, I understand the unique position that I am in, being a cultural figure, but also being someone who is studied as a polymath in multi-dimensional areas. So a lot of the people that I speak to, they are masters and very skillful in that area, but I'm a student in that area as well. So it wasn't about us having interviews. It was about us, how about we go and have a cipher in front of the world? Let's have a conversation, right? Because it allows people to pull out something of themselves that they couldn't normally get and to give some of their best. So when we sit down with people, the first thing we did, I said, let's start this off first. That this is not no, you know, what they call hotep. You know, this ain't no conscious community thing. No, this revolution. But so we started off talking about wealth and business, right? Yeah. With my brother Keenan Beasley, who is a wealth fund manager that is raising $100 million fund, who is actually on the board for the Waltons, and he has products all across the world. So I say, if we start off teaching them something about business in this world, we can never be pigeonholed to be some conscious channel. You understand me? And so we started off talking about wealth and family dynamics and how to create that LeBron in your family, right? Where everybody rallies around that and the skill sets and how to build up industry. And if you go talk me and the boss, how to actually employ people, right? Then we brought it over to, let's talk about what Mike Rashid, masculinity, right? Because I can give you all of the knowledge in the world, but if you're not willful and you can't masculinize that into a force and an action, then everything is for naught. So what we're doing is we're creating a library where, you know, our people, if you want to teach your child, you can say, well, I want you to be conscious. You want to do a litmus test for your girl and you want somebody that's conscious, or for your man, have them go through the series of high level conversations. And by the time they're done, they will have been elevated to the concepts of higher level consciousness in business and spirituality and biology and society, right? And technology. So it's going to be a well-rounded, right, curation, right, of all of the knowledge, information, and concepts that a person can go to and get it all in one place to be exposed and to be educated.
And, you know, maybe some of our viewers sometimes may not understand the very delicate balance between spirituality and business and economics. So in knowing how going too far to the business side can really throw off your spirituality, and being sometimes too spiritual, you know, can cause you to be the most spiritual man in the room, but living out your car, right? So, so how do you balance the spirituality with the business, as it's such a delicate thing to do?
Man, that's a very important and powerful question. I study a lot of things when I try to develop a framework for things, right? So when I was studying myself during this moment where I was traveling the world, right? We was doing our tour in North America, and we were doing it back to back, week to week, like just constantly talking to people. Is when I had the paradigm shift of this group of young men and women that came together to teach. And I felt spiritually drained, even though we had accomplished a lot. And we went to this island, right? And, you know, it was the first time me actually leaving the soil of America, even though this island is now owned by America. It was the first time me leaving the soil. And this island we went to had this piezoelectric activity. When you get into the sand, had this white sand, and we got into the water. And I remember spending that day, and I felt so charged up. I felt like myself again. And I made a promise to myself, first of all, that I was never, ever going to allow myself to be drained like that again. You understand me? Because if I don't have it to give, then that's when, the same way like a bank account, you go into the negative, right? You start to be angry. You start to be stressed. You're in a bad mood. So the way I teach my younger brothers economics is the same thing about the spiritual economics, that I can only give from a place of abundance. I can't give from a place of balance. So I teach, when I'm talking about that, is the fact that if you have $100, you can't give nobody 50. No, that's half of what you have. Now, if you give somebody else another 50% based on your economics, you got 25. You give somebody else more of that, you got 13. Like, you're going to be poor very fast. So no, I can only, if I only got $100, I can maybe give you 1% of that. I give you $1, right? Now, if I got $1,000, you know, maybe I can give you 10. I got $10,000, I can give you 100, right? Now, what I was basically giving the analogy that to my younger brothers is sometimes we think doing good is us having nothing and giving from a place of nothing, to where we robbing ourselves and our future self, because now we can't give ourselves heaven because we done gave it all away. So now we're in the same hell and the same condition as the people that we're trying to help, right? And so that's because we never learned assets and liabilities. We never learned how to create our own net worth and increase our value. So that is the poor righteous teacher, always giving from a source that where you don't have it in the first place. So you feel more exalted. You feel more morally righteous, right? But you can't take care of your family. So you're sacrificing yourself and your family to try to help others. And it makes you feel good, but you don't have any power and control, right? So now, remember, the devil loves the fact that you do that, because he said that man ain't gonna never have resources. He just don't understand. You understand me? He ain't gonna never have resources. Here, he giving this man $10, $100, and he giving them what he has, which won't allow him to ever be in a position to give to the masses, to be able to build something. So I learned another concept of European psychology and Black psychology. See, I learned that we have a duality in the way we think. There's the things that we do to fulfill us spiritually, right? And then there's the things that we do to fulfill us financially. So the American dream and the Black dream are qualified to be two different existences. So the American dream is like, you know, capitalism, the amount of money I want to make, the type of house I want to have, the type of car I want to have. But that has nothing to do, right, with my values, with my morals, with my character, right? What actually makes me happy as at a core of my human being. So you can be getting to those ambitious goals working in a cubicle with no spirituality involved. You're depressed, but you're gonna have a car, you're gonna have the money, but you're depressed, right? So I said, no, I can't do that. I have to make sure that they're intertwined with each other. So I have to do something of purpose that fills me financially and spiritually, right? So the more that I give spiritually, the more I'm fulfilled financially. And from a plane of what you talked about, the third dimension of that is, you know, when you speaking from this spiritual and this creative place, it's completely different than when you thinking from the business mind.
Right.
The business mind is pure logic, right? It has nothing to do with emotions, has nothing to do with your spirituality. You got to crunch the numbers, brother. You have to have the business plan right. So that's why somebody can be evil, but they're more effective because of the type of world that we live in and they understand it. See, we operate a lot of times from a spiritual place, not a systematic place. What we complain about the most is their systems. See, when I meet a white man, I'm like, that's not who that man ain't got no power over me. I had no problem with him. That man, Joe, Bob, Bill down the street, I ain't worried about him. He don't run no systems. Why would I be mad at him? It's the systems of power when I look at that have all of the control mechanisms set in place to create the reality that we live in. So I said, I have to find a balance where I'm making sure that I'm making time for my spiritual fulfillment, right? And at the same time, making sure that is in accordance, right, to my financial goals and my capitalistic goals. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, we have to be righteous capitalists.
Right.
Righteous. We live in America. You can't do nothing without being a capitalist.
Right.
But how do you ensure that it's righteous? And we happen to be living in a time where you can actually infuse your spiritual injection, right, with also and get financial protection at the same time. So social media, I can talk about the things that I love from a spiritual side, upload it on YouTube, get 1 million views and get paid from that. So what did I just do? I'm operating from my spiritual side of things that I love to do, things that I'm good at, and I'm getting paid for it. So that makes me feel rewarded. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel purposeful. So it fills me up to do it forever. So I can't get tired when what I'm doing is fulfilling me.
Right. Fantastic. So tell me then, in regards to emotional people, what kind of business person do they make? And how does one intellectualize their emotions?
Man, that's a woo. First of all, I want to answer the first part of that question. Emotional people do not make good business people. I know somebody's like, I'm emotional. This is my question, you know, but listen, I'm going to tell you, emotions and business do not mix. You can be passionate about your craft, your skill set, but it's the same thing with artists. And I tell them all the time is a lot of things is like what you can do is you can take that passion and you can put it into an aspect of business to make sure that the things that you are passionate about are also profitable and are also seen. So let's say an artist, because artists are the most emotional type of business people, right? And artists create a product, but they take all of their creativity and they put it into the art and none of their creativity into the business model, right? So but today, and I'll give you all some hope, is that now the creative business models can thrive, right? So particularly with these new marketplaces and social media and Web3, you know, I spoke on it and I'm now seeing it. It's amazing how things come into fruition. I was telling people that the social media companies have to now change their business models because the capitalistic ideas that they've had are no longer having the ability to continue to grow, because it's now more fruitful if they partner with the creative rather than make the creative the product, because they was able to run ads on your attention, but now they can't run those same ads because laws have changed, right? Literally the law has changed. So now they have to change their business model based on survival. We're in a recession. So they have to change their business model to make sure that they can still be profitable. Once you have $1 trillion company and you have to maintain $1 trillion worth of profit, oh, you get desperate. So this can be good if you understand what's happening. So today what they have to do is they have to partner with the creative. You own your data, but now we're going to help you leverage that so you make more money and we take a percentage and a cut out of that. So today I opened up my app on social media, and what did I see? They said, create your portfolio. I said, what's this? In the create your portfolio section, they now have where you can write your bio of who you are. You can take your top post and you can have that in a portfolio. You can take your top analytics, you can put that in a portfolio, and they show that to brands that may want to partner with you. Why? Because they're going to get a cut, right? So if you are a passionate, right, person that is an artist, that is a creator, you have to learn how to utilize social media, but you also have to learn how to understand the business side so that you're creating a business formula and a model to where the more passion that you pour into it, the more success that you have. But without a good business model, you may lose almost 100%. So you have to learn the business. Otherwise, you become the product and you can never maximize.
Right. Going back to Jay-Z saying, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Let me handle my business, man. So with that said, how then does the emotional wreck then, 19 Keys, how does the emotional wreck who wants to go into business intellectualize their emotions and harness that energy for positive outcomes?
That's a very great question. I think first you have to consider what is the value of your emotion. You have to identify them, right? And you have to identify the source of them. Creating a business off toxic or traumatic emotions will not be good, right? First you have to, the only way to change the past, and a lot of our emotions that we feel right now is based on something that happened to us in the past, right? So as any business person, one thing we always teach in our mental engineering and the BWO is healing, the healing factor of a good business person, right? If you do not heal, and healing comes from revealing, you have to reveal to yourself and forgive yourself, but you can change the perception of the things that happened to you, and that's how you can change the past. You can't go back into a time machine, but you can go where that thought and that memory is stored, and you can learn to change the perception of that, gain clarity on it, so now you're clear in the present when you operate. Now, if you're like me, sometimes I can operate from a place of anger that I feel like they're never going to give me what I believe I deserve. So I'm going to figure out how to create what I deserve. So that's an emotion that I can operate off of is anger. So it forces me to open up a door, right? So it says that, okay, 19 Keys, you want to put out high level conversations and talk consciousness to the people, how you going to do this? Well, I understand that I have to position myself in a very unique way. You understand me? I have to connect with other people to create our own industry. So I'm going to connect with Earn Your Leisure, right? I can put it on my own, but it's going to take longer. I want to be effective. How do I go in a further distance in a shorter amount of time? Efficiency would have just been me doing on my own and trying to work as hard as possible. Effectiveness is me getting a collaboration. An emotional person should definitely connect with a logical person and through partnership. That's the first thing I'll tell you. If you are that type of person that is the artist, that is sensitive, that is coming from that place, you have to get a partner that is the opposite of you, right? So they're going to be thinking about the details. How do we actually make this work? I'm the visionary, right? But I also be having to know the business because I know that that's the only way it's going to get done. So then I connect with somebody. Maybe I hire me an assistant. Well, hey, these are my ideas. Do you know how we can get this done? They say, oh yeah, that's my field. I do this all the time. They start making the calls. They telling me how to get it done. So partnership is key, 100%. 100%. If you do not have a partner, you're not going to win. If you want to get something done, do it yourself. If you want to do more, get you a team. So the vision has to be partnered with somebody else that can get it done. And one of the ways I like to do is, give away equity. See, Brother Abdul, a lot of times we think that we need 100% ownership of stuff because we've never had nothing. So when we got an idea, we got something, we don't want to give away no equity, but in venture capitalism and in business, they're trying to figure out how to give away equity. How do I give away ownership? So they're asking people, buy into this, invest in this, be the partner on this. Why? Because you can help it grow. You want 100% of something that is worth, you know, $100,000, right? Or do you want 10% of something that's worth $100 million, right? You have to think about that. Or 20% of something that's worth $1 million is still more than 100% of something that's worth $100,000. So for me, there's partnerships saying that, well, I can partner with some people that have businesses. This brother got a product, this sister got a show, this person's good at that art, and they come to 19 Keys or some social influencer and say, well, I need more exposure. Or can you help me on the business side? Because I have this great idea and this great product, but I need somebody to help me with it because I'm more on the emotional side. I'm more the artiste, right? And that person has to be willing and open to work with whoever they work with and be able to take consideration and what's called nonviolent communication, right? Because an emotional person is going to speak from a war mind. They're going to be offensive. They're going to be defensive, right? So being able to communicate, being able to partner, and being able to leverage your intellectual property, I think is very key. And that leveraging, to me, is leveraging the equity of it so that you can get partnerships, so that you can incentivize the people that's working with you to help you all be successful.
Fantastic. So tell me, what's the future holding for not just 19 Keys? What are you seeing, my brother, when you travel the world and you look at what was our condition and you interact with the different minds in the different countries? What level of hope do you now have for our future as a people?
Great question. The most beautiful thing, I went to France and I interviewed and had a conversation with this brother that I met. I went to his restaurant. What was it called? It was called Soul Train. That was something about his restaurant. I said, I knew there's got to be a Black person on this. they was playing all kind of music, and I went there and I ate, and sure enough, there was a Black brother there. And he started telling me how he's been operating in business and how he, you know, used to be one of the top event organizers, and he switched over to, you know, owning restaurants out there. And this is in Cannes, France, right? And he was giving me a breakdown of how there's a lot of old white money that ain't moved in decades, and it's hard to get into that space. But he was explaining how, you know, by the things that he sees on social media, the things that like Black Americans push out and stuff of that nature, it has inspired him, right, to want to go for ownership, wanted to go for entrepreneurship, and instead of just be a worker. Right. And where I'm seeing that all around the world is that we're inspiring the world to do for self. So it's no longer a catchphrase, it's an action. Right. And I went to Paris. I know a brother that's part of my NFT collection, Crown Society. He reached out to me, say, brother, I have a restaurant out here. I want you to pull up. We're doing some great things and the blockchain and things of that nature. He said, I want to come talk to you. This brother had his own restaurant. He was explaining the same sort of idea. I go to London, same sort of thing. When I travel, I'm speaking to all these original or these Black men and women, and they're telling me how they've been inspired, right, by seeing the examples of the things that's on social media from everybody sharing and getting this education. And now they want to do their own. And I'm inspired to see the amount of ownership that we have, right, through across the diaspora over the next 10 to 20 years because of this new education that is now becoming the most influential thing out there. When we look at Jay-Z, we look at Diddy, we look at, you know, Rihanna, you know, Kanye West. The thing is that the money that they've made is not off their music that got them to $1 billion. It's the products, it's the business side. So our people now know this. They saying, wait a minute. It's the fact that they were investing, they were doing partnership deals, they were creating products, right? This was what got them to that scale. So you used to look at these people for their artistry, and they said, well, now I'm the most successful I ever been. So you said, well, how? Well, I sold a product. So now a person said, well, now I want to sell a product. I want to follow by example. So I'm seeing the interest level increase tenfold, 100-fold. And that interest and that inspiration changes the archetype that people want to become. So I'm very hopeful to see a future of entrepreneurs to where we're creating our own jobs. You understand me? And we having self-sustainable systems of economics throughout the world, and we're interconnected as a global community everywhere we go. Because one thing we don't have is Black towns everywhere we go, but we can create a global directory, right? To where we know where all of those businesses exist. When we travel in those countries, we increase the economics, right? By spending with our own, allowing them to expand, to hire more, right? To teach what they know, inspire others. And there's a chain effect that happens because education is the key to unlocking the reality that we want to achieve.
Right. So how ripe do you think our young people are to take on the responsibility of being a whole cadre of economists and business people? What are some of the signs that may say that we are ready, our young people are ready, or they're not ready?
That's a very good question. I think, because I can only speak on what I've seen, right? And the leadership that I've seen exhibited. There's a lot that we're going to have to go through to get our people ready for that. I don't think we're ready for it just yet. But what I am seeing is I'm seeing the seeds being planted, you understand me, in the darkness. And I think one thing we have to understand, because this is going to be a spiritual thing that has to happen first. We have to spiritually manage ourselves, and our ego has to be rooted in what we envision for the world. But currently our ego is pointed at each other to fight each other and compete with each other.
Right.
So when I went to Egypt, ancient Kemet, I seen the big statues of the brothers, and they got 4 women at their feet on each side, watching their back, their front. I said, well, these brothers have some egos. But their egos was based on building, right? Our egos are based on competing and killing.
Right.
Their ego was what they wanted to see for the world. They wanted to see themselves represented in the world. So we have to get to a generation that when they walk outside and they look at these buildings, they want to see a representation of themselves in the world, right? But we don't have that vision. We don't have that type of ego. We only know the ego that is detrimental, right? We don't know the ego that can be representative of who we are. So that to me is something that I'm looking for, is that when we start walking out in the world, we want to see ourselves in the world, because otherwise there would be no reason to build, right? The white man built these businesses and he built these tall buildings because he wants you to know that he owns this world. He conquers this world. He runs this world. He rules this world. So you have to be right within, and you have to know who you are, because you said something so key. What you say, brother, you said that it's one thing to not think so much of yourself, right? But it's better not to think too little of yourself, right? And I think we think too little of ourselves, but it has to be from a spiritually healthy place of knowing who we are and saying, well, I'm a God. Right. How come I don't own this? I'm a God. How come that plane, we don't own this? How come we didn't build this? How come this is not my school system? How come this is not my economic system? How come we don't write the books? How come we don't create the standards? So we have to get to a generation that is born in a healthy circumstance, and they start wondering and they get curious and they say, wait a minute, this don't make sense. You told me that I was what? No, they have to feel entitled. You understand? Create their own world. We don't have that entitlement. We feel guilty when we get success. Now
that's a heck of a thing, right? That God has promised you the blessings of the earth, i.e., He's promised you luxury, money, good homes, and friendship in all walks of life. Now, I was speaking to some people today, and I was saying to them, that isn't it interesting how we sometimes plan so far into the future that we don't consider we might only have 10 more years on the planet?
That's a fact.
So And I said to them, that one of the mistakes we make is we look at our life in years as opposed to months and hours, minutes and seconds. So if somebody said to you, you've got 525 million more seconds to live, I'll put a level of, urgency and respect on every second, because that's how you're quantifying life, is in seconds. But when we quantify life in years, that's 12 chunks at a time, right? So the man lived, we say, to 65, but he might have died in January. So it wasn't a full 65. Right. It may have been 64.
Right. 64 and 3/4.
So I say all of that to say this. How do you inculcate a matter or a level of urgency in those who you teach? And as a teacher, you're obviously responsible for those who come under your voice. How do you instill a level of urgency, knowing that we have to achieve what we have to achieve whilst we've still got God's precious spirit inside our bodies?
I think that's a very beautiful question, because time is a very powerful concept. And understanding that, the concept of time first. I think first you have to understand what time is. And I think a lot of people do not understand time at all. Right? One thing I learned is that we don't have time, we make time.
Yeah.
Nobody has time. Nothing happens unless you make time. Time is the measurement of motion.
Right.
One can be alive for many years, but it's never their time until they make the right moves.
Right.
So you could have 20 years to do one task, but the actual time you spent on it was based on the activities of the work that you've done to bring it into fruition.
Right.
So there's a completely difference between being alive and the time you spend, actually living and doing things towards your vision and goal. Right. And so we give ourselves more time than we need, right? So a brother asked me the other day, he said something about, it was in a tweet that was so good. And he was asking me something about time. And I was explaining to him that it's more important to look at things in seasons and cycles as well.
Right.
That within one season, the earth has its seasons. They don't try to do, the earth don't, when we look at the earth, it gives us the best representation, because nature does everything according to the right time.
Yeah.
Summer only needs 3 months. The summer don't need the whole year to do summer. Think about this. God is the best farmer on the planet Earth. He does the best agriculture. He set up a whole system. I only need 3 months to do summer.
Yeah.
There's never, ever a time where summer needs 6 months, 7 months to do its job. Winter only needs 3 months. Fall only needs 3 months, right? So when you're talking about things being accordance to nature, you have to know the time that it actually takes, because sometimes we will take longer to do something that only requires a season, right? So it is about first sitting down and writing out that plan. Once you write down that plan and then get into the mathematics that help you demonstrate how much time is necessary in order to get it done. So a person say, well, I want to buy a car, right? Or they say, I want to make $100,000. Well, let's plot out this time. So now you want to make $100,000. Well, let's start dividing that. What's the best way you can go about doing that? Maybe in 1,000 days, you can make, $100 every day. That's $100,000. So you say, well, I give myself 1,000 days. Well, maybe you want to shorten that. So you say, well, I want to do it in 500 days. I want to make $100,000, right? So that means that now you have to double the amount you make every day. So if you have a product that's going to give you a net profit of $100 per day, let's say you got a shirt you selling for $25. You got to sell how many shirts? That's 4 shirts per day, right? So now you start looking at a system. Well, if I go out there and I sell 4 shirts per day, but I want to do it in half the time, I need to sell 8 shirts per day. So now you're going to quantify it by work. So now as long as you're consistent, you're making that $100,000. Now, if you want to do it in a shorter amount of time, instead of going out there doing just the physical work, you start learning how to leverage the money that you're making from what you're doing and say, well, Now let me go get an influencer so I can get more attention because I learned that I convert at a rate of 10%. So if 1,000 people come, right, and I'm converting at 10%, that's 100 people that buy it. Now I'm at $2,500. What I just did is I cut down the time necessary, right? So it's about teaching formulas to be more effective because then you can directly correlate the amount of work, right, and the time that it will take and the means in which you go about getting it done. So for me, that's why the seasons already know that, listen, we got 3 months. It's going to shine. It's going to harvest this much. And then in the next month, there's going to be the fall come. Everything's going to die off. Then the winter come. You understand me? Then here comes the spring. The spring is bringing things back to life again. And that's all we need to keep this cycle going, right? But now as human beings, we have this beautiful thing called minds, right? And I ask people, I asked the question the other day, I said, what's the most valuable asset? Most people go tell you time. No, time is only as valuable as how you use it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It's only as valuable as how you use it. Right. So you gain knowledge, right? So that you can properly use time in the best manner. But there's a difference between knowledge and smarts. See, most people are knowledgeable, but they're not smart.
Right.
See, the best use of time is your smarts.
Right.
See, and that's where we go for, and that sense of urgency is understanding, and that's going to be in a difference between each person, right? Each person has a different level of urgency that they go about life. Because for me, I have to be enthused about everything that I do. Right? I have to have a certain spirit about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to act with a sense of urgency. I have to experience the reality in my mind, which gives me a sense of urgency to experience it in reality. Right. If I see a commercial on something, man, I can't wait to see the next Wakanda, man. That movie looks good. That date can't come fast enough. I'm trying to go to a premiere to see it. I'm trying to cut down the time it's going to take for me to experience the reality that has just been given to me in my mind. Right. So what we have to learn how to do in order to increase that sense of urgency is to supplant a vision of experience in our mind that makes us want to work more effective to experience it in reality.
Right. So how important is vision in that whole, mix of goodness? Where does vision and goals fit in?
Vision, oh, I love vision, man. Without vision, we can't see. I've never seen a blind man drive.
Right.
But see, even a blind man has vision, because a blind man can have a destination in mind.
Right.
So that's the beautiful thing about it. Vision and sight is two different things, though.
Right.
See, the blind man can be in the passenger side, he can be in the back seat dictating where he goes based on the vision he has in his mind. Right? He can say, well, I want to go to the store. That's what I have in mind. I'm hungry. I want to go to the restaurant, or I want to go to the symphony. Right? Because vision is destination. That's what it is. It's destination. So a vision is an idea, something you have in mind. Many people have sight, and sight can be a jail, because sometimes you can be imprisoned by all that you see. And if your environment is not stimulating a vision, then you can only go as far as what you see. And everybody has different levels of eyesight. Right? So imagination is the key to activating vision.
Right.
You can have a person that grows up in poverty. They and that's all they see. Right? But they can be sitting in their room one day and they can say, well, I imagine one day I have a huge house. I imagine one day I have chefs that's serving me. I imagine one day I'm on stages and people know my name and they love me all around the world. Now, people around, they tell them that vision, they say, you're crazy. Because people consider you crazy if you see things that other people don't see. You understand me? They say you're crazy. If you start sharing things, you've seen what? Oh no, brother, that doesn't exist. They might want to put you in a mental asylum, But it's like, listen, wait a minute. See, this is why it's important, because your vision is like a sperm, all right?
Yeah.
And your subconscious is the egg, right? And you have to take a conscious thought and supplant it into your subconscious and impregnate yourself, right? What happened when a woman knows she's pregnant? She start thinking, oh man, what is the future? What is this child going to be? What we're going to name them? How I'm going to take care of myself? How am I going to love them? What school they're going to go to? So having all these visions, they just start popping up. You understand me? Now, there's fear that comes from vision as well. The fear of success or the fear of failure. So when a person has a vision and they have an idea, the same way a woman is pregnant, man, people are more careful around pregnant women. You know, you see a pregnant sister, oh man, sister, you want to go ahead in front of me? Because you got a vision in your stomach. I got to make sure that that's protected. Society as a whole is more sensitive to a woman who is pregnant.
Right.
You understand me? Because we know that she has something that is being cultivated in the darkness of her womb that is we all have a vision for it. We can see that. We all know within 9 months, that baby is coming. That is something in the human condition that we all know. As soon as you see a pregnant woman, you have a vision for her. So there's a collective vision for all pregnant people across the planet Earth that one day they will give birth. I want you all to understand it's the same thing when you have an idea, right? But see, there's a difference between two people that have ideas. There's a person you believe and there's a person you don't.
Right.
One person tell you their vision, but they procrastinate so much, right? That you don't think that they're actually going to do it. And then there's the other person that they got such a good track record based on their character that every time they say they go do something, they get it done.
Right.
But see, when a person that never gets it done has a vision, you don't know if it's true or false. So you might not be careful around their vision, right? It's the same thing if a woman, she say, I'm pregnant, but she has a track record of giving abortions.
Right.
You might not be as careful.
Right.
Because we don't know if this actually is going to come to term or not. You might not be able to handle this, right? Because her vision may make her want to abort because it may be too painful. It may not be a part of her process that she sees in life.
Right.
But then there's other people that say, nah, man, this brother got a vision. I need to help him with that.
Right.
Right? I'm not going to say nothing negative, right? To deter this brother from his vision. Because, man, whatever he say he go do, he does.
Yes.
Right? Whatever he say he go do, he does. And so you have to know whether you even believe yourself when you have a vision, because if you come up with an idea and you're always the type of person looking for a plan B and a plan C, right? You got one job, you never stick to it, you stop believing yourself.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to have a vision. You have to go through the same thing a woman has to go through, the sickness, right? She has to go through the craving. She has to go through her feet swelling up in the morning. You understand me? She has to go through the emotional changes. Entrepreneurship and bringing vision to life is the same thing. You don't feel like you might not want to do it. All this is painful. It's costing too much. It's expensive. I don't know. Let's just abort the whole idea, man. It's time for this. Then here comes your support system like a doula. They come around you and be like, nah, I got you, brother. Don't even worry about it. Let's get that's the term. And you keep pushing and you keep pushing. And the next thing you know, you got a baby and now you got to take care of it. But vision is the most important thing, which is the cousin to imagination, because without imagination, we have no vision. And if we can properly cultivate our imagination and we can imagine another world, then we create it. Because I got to ask you all a question. I want you all to think about this. You know, the world is ruled by ideas. That's all it is. You ask people about things, and these are ideas that spread around and they become dominant frequencies. And you're born into the world, you know about certain ideas because they're passed along into indoctrination, right? And so what is the collective vision? Most people, ain't no collective vision. It's total darkness. The only thing that we can perceive is death. Right? Because when we think about perceiving death, it is the limit of the human imagination, right? We turn death into another life because that's all we know, right? Having our senses. But when you think about death, it's a blank screen. When you don't have a vision, that's the death of a people. So without having a collective vision, all we know is death. So all we have in the culture is death, right? So it is important for us to be able to, and within our own family, within our own ranks, amongst our own friends, consistently talk vision.
Yeah.
So that we're all poured into that mind, and our will is forced to produce that vision, because I was taught when I was young about the vision of the hereafter was that, you know, scientists and prophets predict vision, but it's the people that are impregnated by the vision that make it come into fruition.
Right. Now, my co-host just sent me a text saying that she's about to resign if I don't allow her to engage in 19 keys. So,
Yes,
so I'm going to try and keep her for another couple of weeks.
yes, sir.
So, Sister Sylvina, please greet 19 keys. And are there any questions you would like to ask him?
Welcome, brother. Welcome, and thank you for inviting Abdul Hakim and taking such good care of him yesterday. On Sunday. So well, what day was it? What day was it?
Monday.
Monday. Thank you for that. Question. I'm just while I was sitting here listening to you, and I was admiring the growth I feel that I've seen from the last time we had you on the spiritual injection, in terms of the growth, in terms of I feel, and I want to ask you if what I'm observing is, as you have of course had success, you know, more successes between the last time we hosted you and now, how has that impacted on not only the speed in which you are attaining your visions, but how has it impacted on your ability to connect with the people?
That's a very important question. I think right now it maximizes, you know, the level of responsibility that I have, right? Because you start to realize things that you've said at other tiers of exposure and success had different impact when I say it now. So now what I have to do is I have to realize where I'm at and what is my new level of impact and exposure. So I can tweet something today about someone, you know, and it could go viral, right? And that person could be impacted by it severely because now I have a platform. So things that I think I have to be way more careful and I'm way more mindful the way I utilize my platform, understanding the level of growth that I've now reached. And I think that that's something that I'm learning as I go, because I've always, you know, I don't consistently overthink about myself, but I react to feedback, right? And I listen and I observe the feedback, and that lets me know what my responsibility is, right? Because now the effect is different. And when it comes to directly impacting and having connectivity to the people, you know, it's more overwhelming now, I would say, right? Because I walk to the grocery store by my house, and the person bagging the groceries or the sister that's right there behind the counter, you know, they're giddy and they laughing, and I don't know why. And they're like, brother, I watch you every day. You know, I just love you. And they're just nervous. And I'm like, I'm sitting there just as myself. I'm coming in there to buy some food because I'm hungry, right? And I was on the train to Paris, which I was only there for a couple of hours. So if you were in Paris and the people say, why ain't hit you up? I listen, it was a couple of hours. But I was sitting there, I think it was some sisters, they looked like they was Middle Eastern, there was some Muslim sisters, they was covered up. And they sitting on the opposite side of me and my brother the whole time, and we talking, right, just having a conversation. And, you know, I couldn't even tell if they spoke English or not. You know, we sat there with them for 3 hours on this train ride, right? And they listening to every single thing we saying as we going back and forth, we joking, we speaking to each other as brothers, right? And as they was getting up, and she was like, excuse me, brother, I did not want to interrupt you, but I know who you are and I love what you do, and I just wanted to let you know that. And, you know, for me, that'd be a lot letting me know, like, brother, you know, the eyes are always on you now.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know, the eyes are always on you now. So you envision this, you wish for this. So now you know what it is. Right.
Yeah.
And you have to consistently remind yourself, what does that mean? Right. And for me, interpreting that is something that I'm still learning. Right. So I'm still a student in this new phase of my own life. I'm a student at most things, you know, I don't really consider myself to, you know, be more than I am, because the passion that I get out of life is learning new things. So spending too much time thinking about the things that I know don't actually satisfy me. It's thinking about the things that I can learn. And that actually goes directly with, you know, this next level of life and the things that I'm experiencing now. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And then so tell me, brother, future by way of business. If I have some young people or some elders or some mid-age individuals, what would you advise as areas of business to start looking into that are future-proof?
Future-proof businesses. Number one, I would say media is a future-proof business. When, you know, there's a lot of talk about social media, and social media is created in this era for entrepreneurs as the greatest possible tool that you can utilize. I don't think most people realize, right, that, you know, you can literally make a video, post it up, and start making money.
Yeah.
So very simple. It could be a foolish video,
Yeah.
be an educational. It can be something that you already enjoy doing.
Right.
But you don't have to pay for commercial space anymore. They will pay you to post up about the things that you love doing. I think that that's a very unappreciated reality that we live in.
Yeah.
I think that we really don't appreciate the time that we have. Like, before we even go into industry, look at these computers. See, I don't call them phones. You see this, even this picture I made this picture using artificial intelligence by describing a scene of a black god in front of his flock. You understand me? Like, we got these tools today that are so underappreciated. So I seen somebody tweet the other day, there should be nobody that's bored and broke. You should not today. You should not be bored and broke. It's okay if you're bored and rich. All right, I give you that. You don't be bored and broke. That's too much time on your hands to be doing way too many things if you have plans. So media is key. Maximizing, utilizing social media. Another thing that I like to teach people is how to become authors, right? So you can become an author in very simple steps by taking a topic that you're interested in, recording yourself talking about it, going to an editor, having them edit that topic into a book format, taking that onto a social a commerce platform, right? Creating a digital download link for that, selling it as a product. Then you can take that same thing and then you can take the voice note of that and you can upload it as a podcast, right? And or you can take the video of that and you can distribute it on TikTok into clips, on YouTube into clips, on Instagram into clips. And then at the bottom of each clip, you can have a link that is connected to your book, right? And I believe that books and being an author is a future proof because people will always read, right? Podcasts, people will always listen. Videos, people will always watch. So not only you became an author, you became a publisher. You can self-publish it. You become a person that is distributing media, right? So now you take one thing and you create 7 streams of income out of it. How many things that you're doing on your daily basis? How many books could you get done based on the subject matters, interests, ideas, stories that you could tell, right? Very important to be able to understand that. Also, education is another future-proof business. Why? Because in the top 3 things that people spend money on, education is actually one of them, right? So teaching a skill set of something that you know. Some of you all went to college. Some of you all had jobs. And you don't realize sometimes the skill set and the value that you have. Go look upon the marketplace. Like everything that I do, I sell, right? I can sell rather. So If I want to create a course to teach somebody how to get 1 million views on YouTube, I can do that because all I have to do is teach from experience. Now, maybe you don't reach 1 million, but maybe you get to 10,000 by utilizing my formula. It's a value. You understand me? So teaching and educating people, and it can be small skills. There is this education platform, which is consistently growing. Streaming and education are two growing, very valuable industries. So I'm not just saying these out the cat in the hat. I'm looking at the industries that are growing over time, right? Specifically, education that is teaching people how to do things that are common, because there's a lot of knowledge. People are trying to Google their way into understanding. They're trying to YouTube their way into understanding, but having somebody actually coach you and teach you through it is important, right? Sisters, I know y'all know when y'all want to know something, it can be the most minute and small thing on the planet Earth. You looking on YouTube. You understand? Right. You're going right to YouTube. How do I fold this scarf a different way? I'm right on YouTube, learning the new tie. Well, if you're looking for it, somebody else is looking for it too.
Right.
See, I've learned that everything that I look for, there's at least another 100 people looking for it. If 100 people looking for it, another 1,000. It compounds. 1,000 people looking for it, there's another 10,000 people looking for it. So everything that I need or want, I look, well, that's a business. Another thing, and there's so many different ones. Graphic design as an industry, particularly utilizing artificial intelligence to create designs and then create a cache of content that people can draw from. But businesses in the area of, real estate, like land flipping, businesses such as, if you're in America, trucking, even we talked about this credit, people will always need their credit clean. So learning the game of credit and then teaching people how you've done it is a business that will never go away. That's future proof. Speaking, there's not that many great speakers in the world, but you can actually become a better speaker. And companies, industries, schools, events, we always need somebody to articulate ideas to us, to encourage us, to motivate us, to inspire us. So becoming a speaker is another thing. Editors, virtual assistants, right? These are things that people always need. Can you create a business out of being great customer service, right? Saying, I will call all of your customers. You can give them a max. I'll call 100 customers per month, or I'll call 1,000 of them. Then you can spread that out to say, well, now I got a customer service industry. I just need 2 sisters to do it, 10 sisters to do it, 3 brothers to do it. If somebody had that business and they say, Keys, how many customers you got per month? Well, we do about 1,000 on this business. I will call each one of them to make sure that they are satisfied with your service. I will send them a handwritten letter to increase your customer service. Would that be a valuable proposition to you? I say, absolutely. How much does it cost? Right? So right now, look at ways how you can help entrepreneurs increase their bottom line. Any way you can do that. You say, well, listen, I want to become an affiliate marketer for you. Can I DM 10,000 people? Can I go on YouTube the same way people are doing the Amazon marketplace right now? They're looking at the products that they use. Go look at the top 10 products that you use. And I want you to go on YouTube and I want you to talk about it. Create a podcast talking about it, right? Then you go get into the Amazon influencer program and you put a link to that. So if anybody buys it, because people are looking for human reviews. They don't just want nobody just typing in the post. Now you're making money off the things that you use. See, I'm trying to find the least common or the most common things that is the ease of you to get into based on things that you are already doing, because most people don't know you can make money off your lifestyle, right? So when you're talking about getting into bigger things, then, you're going into different industries. But I like media. I like education. I like affiliate work, and then, of course, make a list of your top 10 essential products that you utilize, whether it's deodorant, whether it's drawers, whether it's socks, whether it's t-shirts. Look at things that people will always use forever. You understand me? And get into a business, because even if you don't sell it to the world, what if you're selling it to 1,000 people per year? This is the simple formula. A business can thrive off 1,000 people per year. 1,000 giving you $100. That's a 6-figure business. Any business. So when you think about something, how much do we spend on toothpaste per year? How much do we spend on socks per year, right? So when you take that average and now you're looking at, well, how do I, listen, this is what most people don't think about. How many customers you need to be successful consistently, right? I think about that because I study my margins, I study my analytics, I study my conversions, and I don't need the whole world. I need a consistent group that I can continue to make sure that they're buying from me because I'm servicing and satisfying them. So figure out something that you can get 1,000 people. That's it. That's not a lot of people to spend $100 with you. That's $100,000. Average person in London or the UK rather makes, I believe, $35,000 a year in the common tier. So that's already setting you into the 1% by creating a business model that services 1,000 people. Now, most of you are, you know, even if you're not a large influencer, you got 1,000 people just on your Instagram. That's a micro by micro influence. You can make $100,000 a year. It's just mathematics.
So how important, last question, Brother Keys, last question. So how important is, and thank you for your generosity, because what you're giving our audience is from your abundance. And one of the things, you know, I'm clear on, in order for the Almighty to be able to use any of us, we have to be kind. We have to be those who share. So to be of God, you have to be Kareem, one who shares his wealth. So we thank you for sharing the wealth of the knowledge and your experience. We're very grateful.
I'm glad to be here.
Are we grateful? Spiritual injection? Is this a spiritual?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Just mute for one more minute then. Last question.
Beautiful.
So how important then is it to be fearless in relations to business? What part does fear and fearlessness play?
You know, there's no, you know, the most dangerous thing, you know, the most risky thing is to not risk at all. That's the biggest risk you can take, is to take no risk.
Right.
The biggest risk is to take no risk. The people who are the most successful takes the biggest risk.
Right.
But people are fearful of risk,
Right.
right? There's a difference between gambling and taking risk,
Right.
right? See, when you're taking risks, you're also doing it with a degree of certainty,
Right.
right? And so to increase that degree of certainty is based on your business plan, right? And your own experiences and your execution. I think that everything that I do in business, I have a high tolerance for risk, right? And sometimes we don't realize the things that we've been through qualifies us to be good business people.
Right.
I've been in the streets where I've been shot at before.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in the streets where people ask me, where you from? And I have to fight them. So when I get into business, I say, well, shit, it ain't as dangerous as that. If I done been through that, I could go through this. You have to trust in Allah. You have to trust in God in order to get past, because whatever you make fear becomes your God. That's so teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know, if you let that become your God, it will control you. You will become a slave to it.
Right.
So you have to be careful of giving way to fear, because you make that more powerful than you are, right? So now, and that goes into the fear of success or the fear of failure, because there should be no reason you feel failure, because the losses get you closer to the wins.
Right.
They do.
Right.
This is what happens when most people, they get in the ring and they box,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes you get that first loss and you can't get it out your head, the vision of failure.
Yeah.
Now you feel like the next time you go in there, you may lose again, and you start fearing that, and that fear produces that reality. Instead of saying that, well, I lost this time, man, it taught me what not to do. It taught me how to get in there, how to move, what I took for granted. And if you go in there with this new reinvigorated spirit, right? And here's the thing about fear that I've learned is that fear doesn't dissipate, but you start to fear less. It was this magician, man. He had to do this trick, and it was at the edge, and he always did it based on things that he feared. So he feared heights, but his goal was to stand on this small platform, right, for I believe like 30 hours with the fear of heights. He planned this according to his fears. right? But he understood that he was courageous because courage is acting in the face of fear. So what he did was every single day he would go up to the top of the building and he would walk closer and closer to the edge. And every single day he would get closer and closer because he would fear less and less and less until the fear got so small that it no longer controlled his movements, right? And so we need to learn how to fear less, right? But we think that we have to have no fear at all.
Right.
That's not the case. It's your courage has to be bigger than your fears, right? So you have to get to a place where you're constantly testing yourself. You're constantly testing that edge, right? You're constantly walking to that edge until the point where it gets to it's like, I just don't even feel like nothing. It no longer controls my movement. I'm doing it even though the fear is there. So you've become bigger than your fears because now you've learned how to conquer things, how to move forward, even though it's there. And for me, I think that is even more important because I remember when I first started doing gold water, you know, I had a fear how people would receive it and perceive it. Well, they know nothing about it. Now I got to educate them. They go say it's this, that, and the third. I say, well, no. Anytime I get a fear of something, it lets me know I should move forward with it because it lets me know that I'm doing something that will grow me. That's it. If when I was younger, my older brother used to force me, right? He would say, man, you got to go talk to her, right? When I was young, he trying to give me the courage to go talk to girls. He said, go talk to her or I'm going to beat you up. I had to choose my fear. I said, well, this is physical harm, right? This is an ego. So I said, well, that sometimes the fear can get you moving too, because you can fear poverty so much you work every day. You know, fear can be a motivator too, right? Because you have to ask yourself, what do you fear more? The circumstances that you live in or the possibility of your success? Right. So it depends on the psychology. So I, you know, of course, I went ahead and talked to the sister. I asked for the number. I realized that my fears was false each and every time though. That's what I realized. And I realized that every time that I had an original thought and I didn't act off of it, I was killing my original mind from thinking because instead I started to train myself to think into the standards of my fears. Right. See, I started lying to myself that, nah, you don't really want to talk to the sister. You know what I'm saying? Her people's around her. She gonna say, no, you start talking yourself into your fears. You know what I mean? To make them real and justified. Instead, no, it's just the fact you're insecure, brother. Just go do it. Stop overthinking and do it. And once you do it, then your brain starts to be trained to not even think those thoughts anymore. Then it starts to give you more original thoughts to think because they know you're the fearless type of person. Right. So being fearless will allow you to command your destiny and to be more of who you are in a way that nothing else can synergize you. And nothing is more dangerous than a fearless person. We all admire somebody who is fearless. So be in the disciple and in the discipline of fearlessness and learn how to command who you are. And I promise you, there's nothing that can stop you. The devil will try, but Allah will grant you access. You understand me? He will grant you access because that devil is just going to try to play on your fears. That's all he gonna try to do. That's all he can do. But when you're fearless, he has nothing left to control you. And that little thought that be in your mind, the little devil that be telling you to, nah, don't do that, don't do this. You got to knock him out the way and move forward to God. God is over there pushing you. That's why they always got that little devil on one side, God on the right side. God be nonchalant, like, brother, all right, you know you can do it. The devil be like, nah, don't do it, man. You're going to be broke. It ain't going to work. They ain't going to like you. No, God just be trying to reassure you of what you already know. And the devil be trying to convince you, you understand me, of those weaker thoughts to be true. Because fear is false evidence appearing as real. Right.
Well, everybody, those of you who were just listening, but you weren't taking notes, I feel sorry for you because you're going to have to come to us for the recording. You might not have realized you were in school. And when you're in school, if you don't turn up without some kind of recording device, then you didn't maximize on the blessing that was in front of you. Brother 19 Keys, it's always a privilege and an honor and a blessing to have you in our presence. And people are listening to you from all over the world, all across Europe and the Caribbean and Africa. And I know, you know, if they're anything like me and I'm the interviewer, you know, I'm exceedingly blessed and delighted. So spiritual injection, are you delighted and did you just get blessed?
Yes, sir, 100.
Yes, sir.
And then some, in
Absolutely.
abundance.
Beauty, what a
That's
blessing.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Blessing. Thank you.
Amen.
Keys, are there some
Thank you.
final comments you would like to leave with our audience before we conclude?
Yes, sir. I believe there's 4 things that can guarantee a person's growth. It's their education, it's what you learn, it's your exposure, right? It's what increases your growth, right? Because when you learn something, right, it increases your value, and actually by learning and reading, it actually increases your lifespan, scientifically proven. When you are exposed to something, you are increasing the barriers of your limits. Now you know more, you can do more, you've seen more. I talked about this at the Royal Albert Hall. When light reaches places in the universe, it expands. The universe is in a constant state of expansion. And your mind can be in a constant state of expansion if you're constantly exposing yourself to new light, to new resources, to new knowledge, to new enlightenment, to new truths. So you're constantly growing. And then the next one would be experience. Your experience dictates your wisdom and understanding of the things that you go through, right? It dictates the rate of maturity in which you grow, right? And then the last but not least would be your environment. Your environment is stronger than your nature, as we're taught. So when you're in the proper environment, you're being cultivated in the right condition. And one thing people, whether you may be going through, you know, what you consider to be good times or bad times, you have to remember there's really just dark times and light times. I call it the arc, D''arc. The arc is a covenant of protection. Yeah. Right. So when you're going through the arc, the same way a seed is being planted in the dark, it is being protected and it's being rooted. And by the time it gets to the surface, when that light hits it, it allows it to distribute its growth so it can branch out and become fruitful and then reproduce. And so sometimes you may be going through a dark time and not realizing you're being prepared for light times. And so you have to embrace and realize you actually may be going through a covenant of protection while you're going through this phase of growth, right? Because what you are as a seed will become completely different once you are a tree. And then that tree becomes the fruit. So as we learn, judge the tree by the fruit it bears. Yeah. You understand me? So when you think about this time that you're going through in your life, whether you're in a dark time or a light time, understand you are being prepared for something. And it's up to you to understand the wisdom in that. And once you have something in the light, embrace that light to understand that this is a time when you grow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, brother. Everybody, if you've enjoyed your lessons and enjoyed the gift of God to us this evening, our brother 19 Keys, all the way from California, he was here in Europe with us this week. And, you know, I didn't have to chase him to be here with us this evening. You know, he's here because he loves you, his family in Europe and throughout the world. And we are so delighted that Almighty God is using him as such an effective vessel. Because when Sister Sylvina mentioned about growth, growth really is God sharing more of himself with us. That's the growth. Because we didn't get bigger, you know, that's more of the Spirit of God, because he trusts us more with his essence. So we thank you, brother, for allowing yourself to be used as a conduit for the pure spirit of Almighty God. We really do, because we feel God through you, we hear God from you, and we see God in your face. You know,
indeed. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Up the good
Absolutely.
work, dear brother.
Brothers and sisters.
Continue to make yourself worthy of more of his spirit. And we look forward to receiving you next time you come back to the United Kingdom. And we also look forward to receiving you again on the spiritual injection. So family, please. You're welcome, my brother. You are welcome. So
and those who follow, make sure you all follow Spiritual Injection. Make sure you stay up to date with my brothers and sisters have going over here, because they have wonderful guests on. wonderful lectures. And I believe that, you know, you are here for a reason, right? Synchronicity is key. Finding the meaning why you are here and stay here, because this can be exactly what you need. This spiritual injection can be exactly what you need to cure those complete ailments that you may have in your life. So my brother right here, I vouch for this brother completely for whatever that's worth, you know, for my word. But brother Abdul Hakim is somebody that I look up to. You understand me?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Enlightening brother, and he has been doing this work for a very long
Yes.
time.
That's right.
That's right.
Consistency is character. So there's, you know, it's nothing to guess about. When a person does the work and their consistency, you ain't got to ask nobody about them.
That's
That's
right.
who it is.
Speak for itself. That's
Gotta
right.
ask
right.
nobody about him. It's
That's
in
right.
his work.
That's
Nobody,
right. Record
no,
speaks for
cannot
itself.
say- If you do the work consistently, it means that it's real. And this brother is very real, very progressive. And I think that he has the framework for the entire world to follow as well. Once they see what will be produced, what has been produced. So that is for me to you all. Make sure you follow it with this brother 100%.